Our hoaxer profile was drawn up by looking at the content of the letters and tapes and forensic evidence, including some found at the scene of Joan Harrison's murder. There was his handwriting, his voice. He was a bee secretor. Oil on the letters suggested engineering connections. His letters, which talk about the killing in Preston, graphically described his loathing of prostitutes. Dr. Carl Roberts is a criminal profiler who drew his own conclusions from all the information.
The overriding impression you get of this individual is somebody who really is looking for some kind of attention, and somebody who's really looking for issues of control and power, somebody who really has a need for these things.
The city of Amsterdam held a special fascination for Robbie Black. In the sex shops of the red light district, he fed his obsession with child pornography, buying magazines and films to smuggle back into Britain. He made regular trips in his van both to Holland and Copenhagen, where paedophile material was readily available. Black also bought paedophile films through mail order, sent to him under the pseudonym Eddie Fonzarelli. But whatever pleasure he took from watching films featuring child abuse, it did not satisfy his needs. He was constantly on the lookout for young girls, and it was inevitable he would find another victim. In March 1986, Sarah Harper set off to her local corner shop in Morley, near Leeds, to buy a loaf of bread. She was followed. That day, Black had delivered posters to a firm barely a quarter of a mile from her home. 10-year-old Sarah had run similar errands many times before, but this time she never returned home.
Finding himself reluctantly back on Civvy Street, his wife now had to bear the brunt of his rages.
I smashed the house up. I dragged my wife round the house. I had a knife at her throat, and I just went into rage, and I actually phoned the police. The police actually come. I assaulted the policewoman, and I was actually taken to court for it. And I would never do anything. One of my pet hates is men that beat women.
But his worst violence was directed inwards. He attempted suicide several times.
My wife said something to us, and I just flipped, and I just stormed out the house, went on top of Wernbeck Bridge. And I was actually going to throw myself off, but a taxi driver had actually called in the police. And I was just about to launch myself off, and the policeman got from behind and dragged us back over. And I was actually admitted to St George's, the psychiatric hospital in Malta, for the night. I don't even know why I'd done it. Just went. I was in for the night. They took my details.
And shouting coming from Doreen Reynolds' flat. One of her neighbours, I think she was called Molly, heard this going on and thought, well, there must be something wrong. So she went to investigate. As she was going up the stairs, or trying to go up the stairs, this man ran downstairs and pushed her out of the way and ran off. Now, presumably he was the offender.
Excuse me, what are you doing?
You're a strong, independent woman.
Can you just make sure you keep your hands to yourself, please?
On the way back to Otterburn, they reached a point called Devil's Nick. If Evelyn had been worried, she could never have expected what happened next. Her fare attacked her, forcing her off the road and dragging her into the back seat. At the Foster family home, Evelyn's mother asked in the language of the day whether she'd been interfered with, and Evelyn indicated that she had, but no more details were asked for. Then she came to the most horrifying part of her story. She always kept a spare can of petrol in the back of the car. The attacker seized this and poured it over her. Then he struck a match, and with the taxi ablaze, he ran off. The doctors didn't need to make much of an examination to come up with a sombre verdict. Evelyn's injuries were such that she was not expected to survive. She probably knew it too, but managed to hang on through the night.
Her last words to her mother, round about 7:25 a.m. the next morning, were, "Ma'am, I've been murdered." She said that twice, and then she died at 7:30 in the morning.
You would have expected a full manhunt to be launched immediately, but the police verdict on Evelyn's story was shocking. They didn't believe one word of it.